Devastating truth. My son sent me to a home on my birthday, then he realized his epic mistake. It was supposed to be a joyous day, filled with laughter and love. Instead, the sun-setting light cast long shadows on an ominous reality. The door creaked open, revealing the stark hallway of the care facility. Any spark of hope was drowned by a chilling chill that swept through the air, mingling our heartbeats with the uneasy sounds of distant chairs scraping and soft whispers. This was not a celebration, this was a heartbreaking betrayal. The memory of my son's face burned in my mind. The confusion in his eyes twisted like a knife. He thought he was doing the right thing, but it felt like I was plummeting into an abyss, abandoned on my birthday of all days. "You'll love it here," he said with a forced smile. Those words echoed in my head like a sinister joke. The nursing home felt like a prison masked under a guise of care, complete with the scent of antiseptic that clung to my clothes. The residents shuffled by, eyes dulled to a glazed-over stare, as if some vital part of them had withered away. My heart raced. Were they all like this? Was I destined to dissolve into nothingness, just another forgotten soul? The phalanx of care staff hurried past me, their faces masked in indifference. I felt so alone, yet surrounded by people. It was a wave of anxiety crashing over me, pulling me under. Then, out of nowhere, a stomach-churning scream erupted from the end of the hall. I jerked my head around. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, voice trembling, to a nurse passing by. She shot me a look of exasperation before disappearing through the swinging door. Was it just my imagination? Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Drifting in and out of despair, my thoughts spiraled. The walls seemed to close in, whispering secrets of forgotten lives, while I pondered the gravity of this decision. What if this truly was home? The idea sent a wave of cold dread through me. But just as my spirit began to sink again, I remembered the way my son said goodbye, his hand shaking, his eyes betraying hidden doubts. Didn't he know the half of it? Could he possibly understand the weight of what he had unleashed on us both? How could he think sending me here was the answer? I felt a nervous energy bubbling in my chest. There had to be a way out, a crack in the walls through which I could crawl back to my life. But what if I was wrong? What if things were worse than I imagined? As the shadows deepened, I glanced at the door again, every creak and groan sending shivers down my spine. The reality began to settle, and one question loomed heavy in the air: what had I truly walked into? Would I ever see my son again? The screech of the scream reverberated through the hallway, dragging my mind out of its dark whirlpool of uncertainty. I wanted to run after the nurse, to demand an explanation for the terror echoing through these sterile walls. The air felt charged, an unsettling energy pricking at my skin, and every instinct I had screamed for me to escape this hellish place. Yet, my legs felt like lead, rooted to the cold tile floor. Every shuffle of the residents, the clinking of silverware, the monotone murmur of voices all blended into an eerie symphony of despair. I glanced around, catching a few fragmented expressions. A woman sat staring blankly, tears glistening like glass on her cheeks, while a man next to her scribbled furiously in a notebook, muttering to himself. Something was definitely off. The door at the far end swung open abruptly, and two aides emerged, their faces flushed with urgency. I strained to hear their exchange. "Another episode," one of them whispered, glancing at the opposite end of the hall where the scream had issued. "We need to notify the doctor. It's getting worse." "Just don't let the others see," the other replied, her voice lowered to a conspiratorial hiss. "We can't have panic breaking out again." Again? My heart began to pound. What were they hiding? panic gripped me, tightening like a vice around my chest. I shuffled forward, feeling the urge to investigate but held back by an invisible force. I could hear the rattle of my heartbeat, drowning out the soft murmurs surrounding me. Then, unexpectedly, a gentle hand landed on my shoulder. I jumped, spinning around to find an elderly woman standing behind me, her eyes wide with concern. "Dear," she said softly, her voice trembling like autumn leaves, "you shouldn't be out here. You don't know." Her voice faltered, and I leaned in, desperate for any information. "What don't I know?" I pressed, feeling the urgency clawing at my throat. She stepped closer, glancing nervously down the hallway. "Things change here. People change," she whispered. "When night falls, they aren't themselves. You need to stay inside your room when it gets dark." "What do you mean?" My voice wavered. "What happens at night?" Her gaze flicked to the end of the hall again as if she expected shadows to stretch out and consume us. "You'll see," she said, backing away. "You'll see." A chill coursed through me, more intense than the cold air. I knew I had to do something. I glanced at the door that led to my room, a small sanctuary in this unfamiliar nightmare. With every step I took, dread tightened its grip. Questions swirled in my mind like a tempest. What went on here after dark? Could I trust anyone? Did my son even know what he had done to me? A faint noise filtered through the walls, and another scream echoed from the depths of the facility, raw, filled with anguish. My heart raced. My hands trembled, and I felt the stirrings of a primal fear. Just as I turned back, a figure loomed in the doorway of my room. His silhouette was familiar, but the earlier warmth I had felt from my son had morphed into an unsettling specter of uncertainty. "Mom." His voice rang out, laced with desperation and panic. "We need to talk. Something happened, something I didn't expect, but I wasn't prepared for what he would reveal." The door creaked open behind him, darkness pooling at his feet, and with it came an ominous question. What kind of secret had he uncovered? "Mom, listen to me." My son's breath hitched as he stepped inside, pulling the door shut quickly behind him, blocking out the oppressive hallway light. I felt a flicker of familiarity mixed with dread. Whatever he had to say, the urgency in his eyes told me it wasn't good. "What is it?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "What's going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, the familiar gesture of anxiety that had haunted him since childhood. "There's something they're not telling us. Something about the residents here. I just found out that." He hesitated, his lips trembling. "That this place has a history. A dark one." An icy chill snaked down my spine. "What kind of history?" I pressed, longing for answers but terrified of what they might be. "Mom," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "these aren't just patients. They're their tests. Experiments." "Experiments?" The word tasted bitter on my tongue. "What do you mean?" He paced the small room, the shadows stretching as he moved. "I overheard the aides. They think the residents here are unstable like lab rats. They're trying to control their minds, their behaviors. And now they're getting desperate." A sudden sob from down the hall cut through the tension like glass shattering, a reminder of the despair that lurked just beyond those walls. "They're afraid," he continued, "and so am I. You need to understand they might be using you, Mom. You have to stay in here, far from whatever is going on." My vision blurred, squeezing the reality into an unbearable tightness. My breath came in quick bursts, a mix of fear and disbelief. Why didn't we know anything about this? Why didn't anyone say anything? Because they know no one would want to come here if they really understood. His voice cracked, the raw emotion spilling out in waves. They're trying to keep everything quiet. I need you to trust me, we have to find a way to get out. Away from here? But what if something happens? I felt my heart race at the thought of running. What if we get caught? We're caught already. He snapped, the desperation in his voice hitting like a brick. This isn't just about you, it's about all of them. And when night falls things change. We can't wait. An eerie silence cloaked our words, the walls trembling as if the building itself was listening. Outside, the familiar sounds of sad chatter had dulled, something heavy lingered in the air, thickening the knots in my stomach. My thoughts spiraled. I had always feared abandonment, but in this moment, the truth was far more frightening. What do you mean things change? You said they aren't themselves. He bit his lip, glancing nervously toward the door. I think they're being turned into something else. Their emotions are being manipulated. I can't let them take you, Mom. Not like this. Panic twisted in my gut as I considered his words. And if we try to escape? What limits do they have? What could they do? Anything, he said. But we don't have much time. You have to trust me. His eyes searched mine for reassurance, and I suddenly felt the weight of a decision hanging over us. What were the consequences of staying? And what horrors awaited us if we tried to flee? Outside the door, the sound of hurried footsteps drew nearer, and my breath caught in my throat. Mom, we need to go. Now. The shadows at the door loomed heavier, and I braced myself for what lay ahead. Would we find freedom, or would the darkness claim us both? As I took a step towards the unknown, whispers of panic filled my ears, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. Was it too late for escape, or could we outsmart whatever was lurking in the depths of this nightmare? Mom, listen carefully. His voice trembled as he pulled me back into the present. The weight of urgency surged between us, pushing us against the wall of our reality. There's a service tunnel at the end of the hall, it leads outside. But we have to be quiet. Service tunnel? I echoed, grappling for clarity amidst the chaos. My heart thundered, drowning out logical thoughts. Why haven't we heard of it? Because they don't want us to escape, he replied, urgency sharpening his tone. Come on. He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the door. I hesitated, imagining what lay beyond, the endless nights of screaming, the dark figures whispering promises of liberation while hiding hidden horrors. They're coming, I murmured, my throat tightening. I glanced at the cracked door, a barrier that felt as fragile as my resolve. Then we need to move, he urged. His grip tightened, steadying my wavering spirit. Follow me. We crept toward the door, each step feeling like a leap into the unknown. The hushed atmosphere felt electric, charged with fear and anticipation. His gaze locked on mine, and I could almost hear his thoughts racing, echoing my own. What awaited us in that service tunnel? Would it deliver us from this madness, or lead us deeper into the grasp of whatever lay hidden in the building's shadows? As he opened the door a crack, a chill of apprehension swept through me. I peered into the dimly lit corridor beyond sterile white walls haunted by flickering fluorescent lights casting ominous shadows. There was no going back, the hallway was quiet, but I could hear muffled cries and distant thuds pulsating through the unseen corners of the building. The sounds filled me with dread. This was more than a refuge, it was a prison, and we were merely pieces on a chessboard. There. He pointed down the hall, where the flicker of a light shone down another corridor. That's where we'll find the tunnel. With one last glance back at the room that had been my world for so long, fear blended with determination. I stepped into the corridor beside him, moving as swiftly and silently as shadows. The moment felt like eternity, a treacherous tightrope walk between freedom and imprisonment. Each faint footfall echoed louder in the silence, drawing me deeper into the chilling unknown. Mom, look out! He suddenly shouted, launching himself body first into me, sending us both crashing against the wall. A group of aides appeared at the far end of the hall, their footsteps erratic and hurried. Confusion and suspicion etched across their faces. They had sensed our flight. I could only imagine what they'd resort to if they caught us. Run! He yelled, tossing caution aside as he grabbed my hand again and dragged me forward, sprinted past rooms filled with vacant stares and muted cries, the echoes of despair amplifying my racing heartbeat. My lungs burned with fear and desperation, and as we neared the flickering light, a sudden crash sent a spike of terror through me. "Quick, this way!" he shouted, steering us toward the source of illumination, the end of the hall. But as we rounded the corner, a figure blocked our path. A nurse stood there, arms crossed, a predatory smile stretching across her face. "Where do you think you're going?" Panic gripped my throat, and the air felt thick with impending doom. My heart raced, frantic and loud, drowning out every rational thought. "Mom, we have to go back," he stammered, panic glistening in his eyes. "No," I gasped, fear fueling my own resolve as I remembered his words about escape. "We can't turn back now." The fluorescent light flickered above us, casting eerie shadows that danced around the walls, and just as I opened my mouth to scream, the world twisted into chaos. Dark figures began emerging from the shadows, surrounding us, their intentions faceless yet terrifying. "Don't let them take you," my son shouted, pushing me back. In that moment, screaming felt like the only option left. But what if no one could hear us? What if we had already descended into the depths of despair, lost in what they had turned us into? The darkness surged closer, and with every heartbeat, I could barely comprehend whether we were fleeing or heading straight into their grasp. As our backs pressed against the wall, I clutched my son, the desperation clawing at the edges of my sanity. Were we truly free? Or were we already captured by a fate worse than death? And in that moment, the lights went out. The world around us was swallowed by darkness. My heart pounded violently in my chest, drowning out every sound of chaos that had erupted moments before. I could feel my son trembling, his small body pressed tight against mine, our breaths coming in shallow bursts. "Mom? What do we do?" His voice was barely a whisper, barely holding back the fear that hung heavy in the air. I had no answer. My mind rushed through options like a spinning wheel, but with each thought, I felt the reality of our situation tighten around us like a noose. We were cornered, and the walls felt impossibly close. My instincts shouted at me to flee, but with the lights out, that path was more treacherous. A sudden noise broke the tension, metallic clattering, then slow, deliberate footsteps. I could almost hear the grin of the nurse as it seeped into the darkness, chilling me to the bone. "Where are you hiding?" she called out, her voice mocking, echoing down the corridor like poison. "I thought you wanted to play." My stomach twisted. We had to move. But where? The service tunnel had to be just ahead. We couldn't let her cut us off. "Mom," my son squeezed my hand like it was a life preserver. "Hold on tight," I murmured, forcing myself to think clearly. Just ahead should be the corridor that led to the tunnel. I felt my way forward, my fingertips grazing the cool, hard surface of the wall guiding us. "Is that you, Gwendolyn?" the nurse taunted, the name slicing through the air like glass. "Such an eager little girl you are. But you know, it's bad manners to run away from your caregivers." With a quick glance over my shoulder, I strained to see. Faint shadows danced in the darkness, the silhouettes of figures moving forward. I could detect one familiar shape among them. It was almost too disorienting, but I could have sworn the nurse's eyes glinted in the gloom like a predator's. "Go," I hissed to my son, shoving him ahead of me. We needed to reach the end of this hall, there had to be a way out. His small form dashed down the corridor, and I followed, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Don't think you can escape, Gwendolyn," she called after us, laughter spilling from her lips, a shrill sound echoing off the walls. I pushed harder, each step feeling like a defiance against her words. We tore through the darkness, our breaths mingling with urgent desperation. Suddenly, a spark of light ignited at the end of the hall, a flicker of hope amid the overwhelming dread. "There!" I shouted, urging my son onward. "Let us go." But just as we reached the entrance, a loud crash reverberated behind us. The silhouettes of the aides loomed nearer, their movements growing frantic. Would we reach safety before they intercepted us? My heart raced, panic clawing viciously at my throat. My son, ever brave, pulled at the door that seemed to glow brighter now, not just a passage to the outside, but the very light of salvation. "Mom, hurry!" he cried, and I felt an electrifying jolt of courage surge within me. We were so close. But just as we were about to reach freedom, the door lurched open, revealing a light that shone too bright, almost blinding. A figure stepped through, blocking our escape. The glee on their face twisted into something dark and menacing. "Where do you think you're going?" I froze, terror gripping my heart once more. The voice was familiar, yet twisted. I couldn't see their face clearly, but I felt the weight of their presence loom. I had to make a split-second choice. Was this figure an ally? Or had I led my son into a trap even worse than the one we were in? And as every second stretched on, my mind raced with the terrifying possibilities. Would escape be just as dangerous as staying? I stepped forward. "Get behind me." But was I too late? The terrible question scratched at the edges of my mind. What if we had just walked from one nightmare into an even darker abyss? The figure laughed, echoing through the corridor, the sound twisting reality one last time. "Welcome back, Gwendolyn." The lights flickered ominously above, and I knew, without a doubt, that the darkness was only beginning to reveal its true nature. What horrifying truths awaited in the shadows behind that familiar face? The chilling laughter echoed in the corridor, a taunt that seeped into my bones, while shadows crawled from every corner, swallowing the dim light. I whispered a silent prayer, clutching my son tighter as we faced the figure that blocked our path. "Gwendolyn, it's been so long." The voice, sweet yet sinister, slithered out into the darkness. As the figure stepped closer, the flickering lights revealed a face I hadn't seen in years, my once beloved sister, now transformed into something grotesque. Her smile was a mere facade, hiding something dark and twisted beneath. "Lydia?" I breathed, confusion knotted with a surge of fear. "Why are you here?" "Why am I here?" she repeated, mockingly. "You really don't know, do you? All that time you tried to forget? Well, I've come to bring you back home." With each word, an icy dread coiled tighter around my chest. Memories I had buried deep under layers of hurt and denial churned back into my mind, a home I had long escaped from, a family that had shattered into pieces. "Stay back!" I shouted, my voice trembling as I turned, glancing at my son. His eyes were wide, reflecting my fear, and I could see the question swimming in his innocent gaze. I couldn't let him see the terror breaking through my facade. "Mom, who is she?" he whispered, his grip on my hand tightening as confusion morphed into fear. Just someone I thought I left behind," I murmured, forcing myself to remain calm. The flickering lights cast shadows around us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were dancing along with my memories, mocking me. "Oh, don't be like that." Lydia stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with a madness that sent chills skimming across my skin. "You remember all the fun we had, don't you? The games, the laughs before it all went wrong?" "She's lying," I yelled, feeling my courage waver. "We can't trust her. We have to find another way." "But why would you leave, Gwen?" Lydia continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You're the one who broke our family apart. All you had to do was stay, and we could have been happy together. Now look at what you've chosen. This?" Her words struck a nerve, causing a wave of anguish to ripple through me, leaving me momentarily off balance. The darkness cloaked us, shifting and swirling around my feet like fog. I felt my son flinch beside me, absorbing my own uncertainty. "Mom," he pleaded, panic creeping into his voice. "What do we do?" I shot a glance toward the door behind Lydia. The fading brightness outside looked like a distant memory of warmth compared to the cold dread surrounding us now. "We don't give up," I whispered, summoning every ounce of strength I had left. No matter the past, I had to protect him. "Do you really think you can leave?" Lydia cackled, her voice reaching a feverish pitch. "You're not the one making the choices anymore. Not anymore." Suddenly, the corridor dimmed, shadows seeping into the light like ink spreading across paper. A shudder ran through me as I realized my sister stood at the intersection of past and present, ready to drag me deeper into a horror that had long since lost any semblance of familiarity. With no time to lose, I grasped my son's hand tighter, ready to make a break for it. On my count. 1, 2. Before I could finish, Lydia lunged forward, hands outstretched, her expression morphing into a mask of fury. My heart raced, an icy grip of terror clutching my throat. 3. I screamed, turning on my heel and sprinting towards the door, only to hear the crash of something heavy slamming against the floor behind us. Would we make it in time? Or had we unleashed something terrifying that would never let us escape? The thought blurred into the shadows, leaving an unsettling question hanging in the air. If we did escape, would the real nightmare begin then? The door felt like a distant promise, but Lydia's scream echoed in my ears, clawing at my resolve. "You'll pay for this, Gwen. You and your precious boy." With every stride, I could sense the darkness stalking us, fueled by her rage. The corridor warped around us, a living entity, straining to reach out and reclaim what I tried to escape. "Mom, run faster!" my son cried, his small legs struggling to keep pace. I glanced back, catching a glimpse of Lydia, her form writhing in the flicker of the dying lights. Her eyes bore into me, reflecting a chaotic blend of jealousy and fury. Panic surged through me like a caustic tide. I couldn't lose him, not now. I had to forge ahead. Just a little further. "We can do this." The door was so close now, yet the shadows thickened, swirling around our ankles like shackles. I could feel them pulling, as if they had become sentient, trying to drag us back to where we didn't belong, back to her twisted memory of home. Lydia's laughter erupted again, a haunting melody that filled the void with dread. "You think you can escape? There's no running from your past, Gwendolyn. It's already here with you." I pushed through the door, yanking my son along as the air shifted, pushing against us like a suffocating blanket. The abrupt rush of cold night air was a desperate breath of relief, but it came with a price. As we stumbled out into the moonlight, the world felt wrong. The sky should have been bright with stars, yet a blaring gloom pressed down, the darkness hungrily wrapping around the edges of the yard. "Mom, where are we?" he asked, fear trembling in his voice. I knelt beside him, squeezing his little shoulders. "It's going to be okay. We just need to keep moving." But even as I spoke, a gnawing anxiety coiled in my stomach. Had we truly escaped? Or had we stepped into a different nightmare? With renewed urgency, we dashed across the yard, but my thoughts raced ahead, surging with a sense of desperation. Where could we go? The house loomed behind me, its windows dark like vacant eyes watching our every move. Something unfathomable nipped at our heels. Lydia's mocking laughter echoed faintly, bouncing off the trees around us. "Mom!" my son whimpered, suddenly halting. He looked back at the house. "What about her? What if she comes after us?" Just as I opened my mouth to reassure him, a flicker caught my eye. Instinctively, I turned. Out of the thickening shadows, something moved, a shape, vaguely familiar, yet pallid and distorted. My breath hitches, and a shiver crawls down my spine. "Stay close," I ordered, pulling him against me as we pressed forward, each step feeling more futile than the last. The night seemed to whisper and wail around us. There were no other sounds, just silence that quaked with the weight of what we were escaping. Suddenly, the air shifted again. I spun around, and my heart sank as I realized what loomed behind us. The door was closing, but it wasn't just a physical door, it represented my past sealing itself off. And in the murky recesses beyond it, I sensed Lydia was still there, still watching, waiting for the moment to unleash whatever madness she had stored in her twisted heart. "Mom, what if she comes for us?" he asked again, quaking. In that split second, I knew his fear mirrored my own. Before I could respond, the ground trembled, and a deep rumble echoed from the darkness, making my chest tighten. Whatever nightmare had followed us now had a name, a shape, and most terrifying of all, it was eager for us to return. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing his hand again, the panic igniting a renewed surge of adrenaline. The night couldn't hold us, not yet. Not while there was air in our lungs. As we sprinted into the unknown, shadows danced at the corners of my vision, but we couldn't look back. Too much was at stake. The question loomed large in my mind: how could I outrun something that was already a part of me? And then, as if to mock my desperate flight, a scream echoed from the darkness, the sound of something lost, something becoming unmoored. I glanced back one last time, but the sight sent my heart racing faster than my feet could carry me. What horrors awaited us out there, and would I be strong enough to face them? But just then, another chilling realization dawned on me. If Lydia was still alive, what other family secrets lay waiting to ensnare us? The ground quaked beneath our feet as the rumbling grew louder, a warning that vibrated through the very soil. I squeezed my son's hand tighter, feeling the warmth pulse from his tiny palm. That warmth was all that kept me tethered to hope. "Keep running," I urged, but my heart felt heavier with every step. The whisper of shadows taunted us, merging with the unforgiving echoes of Lydia's voice in the distance. "You can't escape me. You'll never be free." Each word wrapped around me like a vine, squeezing tighter. We tore through the yard, past the towering trees whose twisted branches seemed to reach for us with gnarled fingers. I could feel the weight of all those memories pressing against my back. Memories I thought I had buried deep. But they clawed at me, hungry, desperate to be acknowledged. Then, out of nowhere, the moon broke through the clouds, illuminating a path ahead. A narrow road branched off the yard, a shrouded exit that led to the safety of the woods. I hesitated only for a moment. The darkness might conceal its own secrets, but it felt like the only chance we had. "Mom, what's in there?" my son stammered, his voice trembling with fear. "It's just woods, honey. We can lose her in there," I said, taking a deep breath as I pulled him toward the path. Just as we reached the edge, a chilling howl sliced through the air. It sent a chill down my spine, freezing me momentarily. The sound was primal, raw, making my skin crawl. I glanced back, my heart racing. Lydia's figure was now at the threshold of the door that I'd thought was forever closed. She stood there, shadows swirling around her like a dark aura, her eyes glowing with fury. "You think the woods will save you? They hide only what you refuse to see." We dashed into the trees, the underbrush crunching under our feet as branches snagged at our clothes. The forest was alive with sounds, the creeping rustle of leaves and the ominous caw of ravens above, mocking us. The deeper we went, the more dismal it felt. I could almost hear Lydia's laughter echoing in the rustling branches. "Mom, I don't like it here," my son whimpered, glancing back at the dark line we had crossed. "I know, sweetie. But we have to keep moving," I whispered, trying to be brave even as my heart pounded with dread. Out here, in nature's embrace, I felt more exposed than I had in that dark, confining house. As we wound deeper into the woods, darkness pooled around us, swallowing the faint moonlight. Panic hummed in my veins as every whisper of wind felt like a warning. Were we just running into another trap? Or was this the escape I hoped for? Then I stumbled, my foot catching on a root. I crashed to the ground, gasping for breath, and pulled my son down with me. "We need to rest." Just for a moment, I panted, trying to calm the fear radiating from him, but the stillness was deceptive. I could feel it in my bones, the threat hovered like a storm cloud. "It's too quiet," I muttered to myself, glancing around frantically. My instincts screamed that we weren't alone in this forest. Suddenly, a rustle snapped my focus. I turned, my heart racing as I squinted through the darkness, desperate to pierce the shadows. Then I saw it, a glint of eyes watching us from the trees, a pair of glowing orbs reflecting back the moonlight. "What is that?" my son whispered, clutching my arm. I couldn't answer. All I could do was hold my breath and brace myself for whatever horror emerged from the twilight. Lydia's laughter echoed in my mind, taunting me. Was there still time to outrun our past? And as those glints shifted closer, pressing ever nearer, I knew my next choice would determine the course of our destiny. Could we confront this fear together, or were we doomed to be swallowed whole by the nightmares lurking just beyond our vision? The glow in the trees drew closer, its brightness unnaturally sharp against the overwhelming darkness. A low growl rumbled through the silence, making my heart race faster. Could it belong to some monstrous being Lydia had unleashed upon us? "Mom!" my son cried, his grip tightening on my arm. The terror in his voice shattered any remnants of bravery I wore like armor. I turned to him, my eyes wide, fighting to keep my expression calm. "We'll just keep moving," I whispered, trying to sound convincing, even as every instinct screamed that standing still was a mistake. With trembling legs, we pushed forward, the shadows thickening around us. The growling stopped, but my heart didn't, resounding like a war drum against my ribcage. We maneuvered through the underbrush, its sharp edges slicing into my skin, but I barely felt it. The air shifted suddenly, a coolness settling over us that made my breath catch. Everything felt too still, as if the forest held its breath alongside us. A cold sweat trickled down my spine, the oppressive silence hanging heavy like a weight. Another rustle came from behind, this time accompanied by a whisper barely discernible over the sound of my thundering heart. I leaned closer to my son, shielding him with my body. "Do you hear that?" "What is it, Mom?" he asked, the quivering tremor of fear making his voice break. I closeted my fears deep inside, forcing an answer. "It's nothing. Just the wind." But I knew it was more than that. Just then, a flash of movement darted behind a tree, quick and deliberate. Whatever it was stalking us. I took a deep breath, feeling the air cling to my throat like a vice. I had to make a decision. Would running blindly lead us away from our demons or deeper into their grasp? "Follow me closely," I hissed, my voice barely above a whisper as I pulled him along, edging deeper into the trees. Each step became heavier, the woods seeming to conspire against us, branches clawing at our clothes as if alive. As we ventured further, a low, haunting sound echoed through the trees. It was a new sound, jagged and broken, like someone or something was in distress. My heart sank. "What was that?" my son asked, his face pale with fear. "I don't know," I lied, my insides nodding. "But we have to keep going." The trail began to narrow, the trees leaning closer, their bark twisted and rough. The whispering grew louder, voices swirling in the air, punctuated by Lydia's malicious laughter. My mind swirled with a million thoughts, a storm of worry, of regret, and guilt washed over me. What had I done? Had running been the right choice? Then the whispers stopped abruptly, the sudden silence crashing like a wave against my ears. In that unnatural stillness, a figure emerged from the shadows, draped in darkness. It was human-shaped but wrong, distorted, and eerily familiar. "Lydia," I breathed out, frozen as the chilling realization started to settle in my mind. Was this a specter conjured from my own nightmares, or had it truly come for us? The creature moved closer, its face partially obscured by darkness. My pulse raced, instincts screaming at me to run, but my feet were stuck to the ground. "What do you want?" I managed to ask, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. "It's not what I want," the thing drawled, my blood running cold as it spoke my daughter's name. Panic surged. In that moment, I remembered the cost of fleeing and the price we might pay for the truth yet hidden in our once safe reality. I gripped my son's hand tighter, ready to face whatever horror unfolded, knowing that only one truth could lead us to freedom. And then, the figure lunged, splitting the darkness with a terrifying shriek, leaving us caught in the crosshairs of our own fears. "Mom!" my son screamed as everything around us shifted, reality crumbling into a chasm of unknown terror. Could we escape the nightmare Lydia had awakened, or were we forever lost in its clutches? The chaos exploded around them as I clutched my son's hand, but in that moment, something shifted. Time felt suspended, and the air thickened with a palpable tension. Not the familiar fear gripping my heart, but something altogether different, a surge of clarity. I could feel the darkness of my past closing in, but I wasn't ready to give up. "We face it together," I declared, forcing the words past my trembling lips. My son stopped, his wide eyes searching mine, searching for assurance in the storm of confusion. "Mom, you mean it?" "I do," I breathed out, pouring every ounce of determination into my voice. "Whatever this is, whatever it wants, we will not let it divide us. We are stronger than our fears." And as the figure lunged again, eyes glowing and maddened with rage, I felt an unfamiliar energy surging through me. "No!" I shouted, stepping protectively in front of my son, feeling a fierce warmth blossom in my chest, a slow crescendo of hope rising against the fear. "Gwendolyn," the voice echoed again, twisted and taunted. It was Lydia's voice, but somehow, beneath it I caught glimpses of a haunting sorrow. "You can't run from what you are." In an instant, my memories flared, a flood of long-buried feelings, the love of a family and the dark shadows of betrayal. I remembered the moments that shaped our past, the laughter that once filled the air, and the pain that had broken us apart. The shadows of the woods trembled as they absorbed my realizations and fears. A part of me hoped they would flee too. Together, I whispered fiercely to my son. "Now. Let's show her we're not afraid." He nodded, determination igniting in his eyes. Together, we raised our voices, drowning out the looming darkness that tried to pull us back. "You don't own us. We are not your puppets." The words erupted from us, a defiant chant echoing through the trees, fueled by the intense connection we shared. The shadow halted, recoiling as if struck. I could see confusion flickering across its distorted features. "What are you doing?" it hissed, caught off guard by the unexpected strength radiating from us. "You can't, but I wouldn't let fear drive me anymore. This is our story," I shouted, and the woods seemed to bend with my conviction. "You don't define us, and your darkness cannot have us." The figure trembled, and with every word, the shadows began to shrink back, dissolving into the light of our combined strength. It was a struggle, but the positive emotions we shared began to push against the twisted memories clawing at our minds. The laughter of long-gone days echoed around us, mixing with the fierce love nestled deep in my heart. "Mom, look!" My son pointed, and I turned just in time to see the darkness receding, unraveling like a tightly wound thread. The woods sighed, releasing a breath I didn't know it was holding. The lights began to flicker and shimmer as the cold, heavy weight of our fears lifted. "Now," I urged, grasping my son's shoulders, and we charged forward, tearing through the remaining shadows as they disintegrated behind us like smoke. We surged into the thick of the woods, the air brightening as the oppressive weight lifted. It felt wrong to look back, but a part of me couldn't help it. I wanted to see my sister defeated, the pain of the past dissolving into the ether. As we pressed deeper, I felt the warmth of dawn breaking through, scattering the dark, frantic whispers, making the trees themselves appear more welcoming. The air filled with vibrant colors. The whispers of our survival echoed around us in tentative but persistent blooms of hope. Later, as we reached a clearing bathed in sunlight, exhaustion flooded over me, but relief followed fiercely on its heels. My son leaned against me, panting, looking up at the brilliance of the sky. It felt like a rebirth. "What do we do now, Mom?" he asked, wide-eyed yet unshaken. I took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of the sun to fill my heart. "We take one step at a time together. And we make a promise to leave the darkness behind," I answered, squeezing his hand tighter. "Together," he echoed, growing stronger with every word. With the past behind us and a new journey ahead, we walked side by side, ready to face whatever lay before us. The pain of betrayal lingered but was met with the knowledge that love could carry us through. And for the first time in a long time, the road ahead gleamed like gold, full of hidden wonders waiting to be discovered. Together, we stepped into the future, stronger than ever before. If you loved this story and want to dive into even more exclusive tales, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait, and make absolutely sure you're still with us. Smash that like button because it helps us so much with the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Every word matters. And for that friend who hasn't yet experienced this wild ride, share this video immediately. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Make sure to join us on this journey.